welcome. This is our state captain's training for the Stampede, which you all have gotten registration invites for, and please register if you haven't already. Please put that on your to-do list for the day. Just because, side note, we're doing catering orders and all sorts of other planning. So the more people we have register up front, the better we are going to be able to estimate our numbers. So please do that, and I'll reiterate this at the end. So we're going to be back in DC as usual on October 8th and 9th, the same hotel, the Holiday Inn, the Washington Capitol. It's down in Southwest by the by the L'Enfant Metro. Side note, the Air and Space Museum has been redone and should all be reopened by then. So it's really cool, a lot of cool exhibits. So plan time to, go there too. So thank you so much for joining us. Our goal here is to give you an overview of what issues we're going to work on and sort of the Stampede itself, so that you can be prepared to talk to all the other folks in your state about why it's really important to register, to be part of this, the issues that we're going to work on. We'll make sure you have all of the sort of one-pagers that go with it, but mostly we wanted you to feel really comfortable about reaching out to the other folks in your state, saying why it's important to come to the Stampede this year, or what we're going to be talking about, and the fact that really a chorus of voices asking for the same thing from across the country is really effective. And so we're going to be able to come into DC with a wide range of people from across the country and be able to really talk to staffers. So I'm sure that Dane will mention this, but because it's an election year, we won't have any lawmakers in town, but honestly, that's fine. That means that the staffers you're meeting with will have more time to talk. They'll have more time to dig into what you're talking about. They'll have time to research it, and they'll put it on the docket of list of things to prioritize to talk to their senator or representative about when they get back in town. And then we'll have a huge chunk of folks getting added on to the bills in November after the election. So it'll be one of those things where your work won't be super visible for like a month or so, but that's totally fine because you're coming when people have time to think, which is really exciting because sometimes staffers don't have time to do anything other than say, take some notes and then move on. So I'm going to turn it over to Dane for the training, and I'll pipe up here and there whenever I see fit to add in. So thank you. Take it away, Dane.
Yeah, and please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We will have questions at the end. We'll cut off the recording for that, and we'll share this with any other folks that, of course, couldn't join today. It might seem like we're a long way from October 8th and 9th, but it's going to sneak up on us. And to Alpha's point, this is a different group because rather than just general participants, these are folks that fill that state captain's role. So maybe doing a little bit more on the volunteer side to help move everything along. And one of those things is usually leading your team. So if you are the state captain from North Carolina, and there's 8 folks there from North Carolina, you are likely going to be the team leader on the Hill for that team. So, a little bit of this should help, put you ahead of the curve for anything else we're doing. But we are going to cover very quickly the traditional logistics of the event. We're going to do an issue review for what we're going to be talking about, and then talking briefly about responsibilities and, what state captains are going to be doing. And of course, this year's event is not going to be virtual. It's going to be in person. Coming out of COVID last year with a lot of Hill events, we've seen that they weren't, they were kind of half participation to what they're normally at. But this year, I think we're expecting it to be fully back. So if you've done the Stampede before, probably close to 200 folks, a rather robust representation, covering a lot of offices during the day and a bunch of different states and state teams. So really quickly, as Alpha noted, we are at the same hotel, which if you look at the Capitol map here, it's just cut off. But if you go to that blue building down in the left corner, which is actually one of the federal buildings, the hotel would be right behind there. So it is a short walk up to the Capitol. The blue building in the middle that looks like a Tetris piece, that is the Capitol itself. So of course you couldn't miss the big dome, the lawn, the Civil War Memorial, all the things that you expect to see in Washington, D.C., the reflecting pool. To the left, as you go north on this map, you have the Senate office buildings. And as you go south in blue, those are the House office buildings. So for the flow of the event we're doing this time, the hotel is going to be on the House side. we have a room in the Cannon Caucus building for the morning, which is on the House side. And then we'll be starting with congressional visits on the House side. So for the march will go up to the Capitol, as it has in years past. The NBC Remembrance will be on the Capitol lawn. And then we'll just go over to those House office buildings for our advocacy training in the morning. As to Alpha's point, there won't be any members there to give us a pep talk. You might recall last year we had Senator Smith and Senator Murphy join us. They will be out on the campaign trail, but the staff are likely to join, and they're likely to provide videos or similar remarks about the issues that we care about. So we'll have that kickoff session in the morning. We'll meet all our teams. We'll do House visits first, and then we'll cross over to the Senate to do Senate visits in the afternoon with our team. So if your team North Carolina or your team Pennsylvania, you'll probably be with your fellow North Carolinians or Pennsylvanians all day. It's just the meetings go by state, and that's how it progresses. But the hotel is going to be very convenient. We're going to be right there on the Hill, and then what we're going to be doing is talking about what's happening with these offices. So in terms of advocacy for metastatic breast cancer in the community, there's really a couple things that are timely and relevant. The first is the appropriations process, so how the government spends money every year, and that annual effort. So of course, we started advocacy at the beginning of the year in February about what we think needs to be done in terms of spending. This is spending for the National Cancer Institute. This is spending on the Cancer Moonshot. And this is spending on research at the Defense Department and the VA also, which are now, as a result of advocacy, all doing metastatic cancer research. But that even though we've started that advocacy, it will not end until the end of the year when Congress finishes the bills. The other thing that's happening is they're doing a lot of what's called PBM reform, which stands for Pharmacy Benefit Managers. And they're also going to be pulling in bills that are popular and bipartisan to pass. So there's going to be things on PBM reform. There's also going to be things they have to do. They have to provide a telehealth extension so you can see your doctor remotely. This is all a federal law. They are going to have to do something called Passing the Pandemic All Hazards Preparedness Act. And they might pick up other measures too, something called the Safe Step Act, which is very popular right now, and maybe even something like the Metastatic Breast Cancer Access to Care Act, which is very popular as well. But they will be any bills they're going to pass, they're going to do in what's called the lame duck session after the election. So the meetings we do in October are going to be very well timed. They're going to be, we're going to be able to talk about our funding priorities. We're going to be able to talk about our legislative priorities with the staff, and the staff that we're meeting with are not the campaign staff. That's a different thing. So whatever is going on in the election doesn't apply to the process of Washington, D.C. We'll be meeting with people who are the dedicated health LAs or health policy folks that work for the office. So it's our chance to get more support for the bills. It's our chance to get more support on funding, with the knowledge that after the election in November, they're going to come back to Capitol Hill, and that's when they're going to pretty much finish everything off. So our meetings are going to be fresh in their mind. So really quick, if anyone wants an update, we have been providing, we have been doing very well in our advocacy for funding for research and federal appropriations. The House included a bunch of our metastatic cancer language, and related things that we've requested for the year. The Senate is going to be marking up their labor, HHS, and defense bill next Thursday. So we'll know what the Senate is saying in terms of how much funding, what should be done in metastatic cancer research next week. And then it's very easy to compare the two proposals and see which one is better for our priorities. But the House has done well. Our hope is that the Senate's going to do even better. And then in terms of our bills, the Metastatic Breast Cancer Access to Care Act now has close to 250 co-sponsors in the House. It's one of the most popular bills. So the time has come to get them to pass this at the end of the year. It's also popular in the Senate. It's got a few dozen senators on it. The Cancer Drug Parity Act is trying to get to that point. It has about 22 senators on it right now, which is 22% of the Senate, really good number, and is building support in the House. So the advocacy for those bills may pay off at the end of the year too. But in terms of what it means to be a state captain specifically for the Stampede, we want you to register for the event, and we want you to encourage others to register for the event too. Get people to show up, get them to participate, and ensure that they're coming. So book a hotel room, make your reservations, make your plan now, and plan to be there for the march, for the remembrance, and for the Hill Day, and for the camaraderie of meeting everybody else from your state and from all across the country. But please help promote the event and attend. Strong attendance matters. It sends an important message when we go to these congressional offices in October, and there's kind of a robust representation for the community. We want them to know there's a lot of folks that can't travel. There's a lot of folks that can't be there, but that's why it's so important that we're the voice for those people. You will be getting more information. You'll be getting a prep packet. You'll be getting further guidance on what it means to be a captain or how you might help out. And then, of course, you're going to be meeting your teams in Washington, D.C. So there will be other folks from North Carolina or Pennsylvania that sign up. And then it'll be important to connect with them, make a plan with them, and discuss things with them. And Alpha, before I go on, I want to see if there's anything that you would add to what it means to be a state captain and the state captain information.
I mean, the main thing I would say is it really is, we're relying upon you, or hoping that you will think of your network of the people that you know in your state, people that you're in support groups with, friend groups, things like that, and really talk to them about why it's important to be part of this conversation, to show such support, a groundswell of this. And it's also important to think about the fact that it doesn't just have to be you as a patient who comes. You could bring your family members. You could bring caregivers. You could be people in the community who are you really close to. Because you don't have to, it's not only like only patients can go up to the Hill and say, I'm a patient and this really matters to me. Anyone can go up to the Hill and say, I love someone, or someone in my family is a metastatic breast cancer survivor or thriver. And I think this is really important because I want them to stay in our community. I want them to live as long as possible. So like, you can think outside the box when it comes to recruiting folks to come to the Stampede. Like, think of your community, think of who's really engaged, think of who are your allies, your support network, etc. Obviously, like Mandy was saying, like you need somebody to watch the kids, but if you can find someone who wants to come and travel with you, and just be part of coming to the Hill and be an advocate, as long as they live in that state or district, they're a voter, right? And so then their voice matters in terms of what they think that their lawmakers should prioritize and support. So don't feel as though there's only a small group of people who can come to the Hill and ask for these things. It truly is anyone who's in the United States can come to the Hill and say, this matters, and I want you to work on this bill. So that's what I would say in terms of recruitment. Get the word out, register, and think outside the box in terms of who you could bring with you.
All the issues we talk about are bipartisan. So right. There's nothing about being a Democrat, nothing about being Republican. It's solely about educating offices that might not be familiar with the MBC experience, how it impacts people. And these folks know you have a pure self-interest. They're going to be hearing from insurance companies, drug companies, but the most important thing to them is, how is healthcare working for you? How hard was it getting diagnosed? How hard was it getting treated? How hard was it dealing with coverage, insurance, Medicare? They want to know your story, and they want to know stories from other folks in your state. The other thing I'll mention is we often talk about how advocacy is more of a commitment. We've done a great deal to bring metastatic cancer forward. We have now a larger research portfolio, and we have research at the VA and DoD that didn't exist before because of the community asking their senators and representatives to help out. We need to build on that foundation, and we need to start improving some of these coverage and access issues. Right now, today, there's 76 members of Congress, 66 in the House, and 10 senators that are not coming back next year. So this is why advocacy is so important, because it's maintaining that critical mass of support. These are folks that are retiring, or for one reason or another, we already know are not returning. So 15% of Congress is already going to be new folks in January. But for the time, and it's going to be important to educate them about MetaViber when new people are elected, including anyone who wins an election in November that hasn't been here before. But for the time being, the members that have say are the ones that are here. So even if there's a couple members from your state where this is their last year, it's still up to them how much money goes to research. It's still up to them what bills get put on the docket for November and December. So these meetings are incredibly timely and important. And like I said, I think we hope that everyone helps get the word out. I'm going to both stop sharing the screen and then also stop the recording right now.